Welcome to Arirang special Ushering in 2025. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We are counting down to the new year as we say goodbye to 2024, an eventful year with many ups and downs. The timing of bringing in the new year comes at such a rough time for the country, as the people are reeling from political uncertainty like no other, and deep sorrow following the ill-fated plane accident over the weekend. As we offer our sincere condolence to the victims of the accident and their families, let us hope for healing, peace, and no more tragedy in the year to come. For about an hour and a half from now, we will take a look back on the past year and what to look forward to in the new year. We will, of course, bring you live the iconic bell tolling ceremony in Seoul. And here in the studio, I'm joined by our co-host Songyujin, Arirang's culture correspondent. Happy New Year, Yujin.
Early Happy New Year to you, to Jung-min, and great to be here.
Great to have you here. You and I were here last year too on New Year's Eve. What's the past year been like for you?
Exactly. So Jung-min, just exactly last year, here in the exact studio, you and I were here for Ushering in 2024, and now a full year has passed, and we're here for Ushering in 2025. And it's really hard to describe 2024 into a word or two, but if I may, I would definitely say memorable in many ways, because as a reporter here in Korea, I think that a lot of issues from our country made international headlines, especially in the latter half of the year. Starting in a chronological order, we had Korean author Kang winning the Nobel Prize in Literature in October, and then in early December, we had President Yoon Suk-yeol's shocking martial law attempt, and also, as you mentioned, the tragic Jeju airplane crash just 2 days ago, which has left the country in a period of national mourning.
So indeed, a lot happened, and I hope for a more peaceful and safer world in the year to come. And Eugene, you and I are going to take a look at the most iconic cultural events in a bit. But first, let's connect to our news features reporter An Sung-jin in front of the Bosingak Pavilion. Sung-jin, what's it like there?
Good evening, Jung-min, and good evening, Yujin. We are finally actually heading into the last hour of 2024 with literally less than an hour left here. As you say, I'm here at the Bosingak Pavilion. People have been gathering here for the past couple of hours, and the crowd seems to be getting bigger as we head towards midnight. This year's traditional New Year's bell ringing ceremony was supposed to be the largest ever, but following the Jeju airplane crash over the weekend, the country is currently in a period of mourning until January 4th. The ceremony has been scaled down with some scheduled performances and events canceled. The bell ringing ceremony will begin at midnight with a total of 10 participants, including actor Cho Do-sim and local firefighter Park Jun-hyun, who saved a driver from falling off the bridge, ringing the bell 33 times. Though the ceremony will be held in a rather solemn atmosphere, the festivity here remains with the crowd gathered to celebrate the end of the year and wish for a good 2025.
We're preparing for our wedding next year, so we came to make a wish. I hope everyone to be happy and healthy.
I want to stay healthy, avoid getting sick, and prepare well for the wedding.
Right, so Sung-jin, as you've mentioned, this year's mood seems quite different from previous celebrations. So could you please tell us how the ceremony has taken this into account?
Right, Eugene. So the ceremony has not only been scaled down with the canceling of performances, but it will also hold a moment of silence to pay condolences to the victims of the plane crash. The moment the bell rings, the Midnight Sun, a giant 30-meter sun structure, is to rise behind Bosingak Pavilion, which is where I'm standing, and a moment of mourning will take place. Events like this one, hosted by the government, will proceed calmly following the guidelines of the Ministry of the Interior and Safety. A couple of 100 meters away from here, the Seoul Metropolitan Government will hold the memorial altar in front of the City Hall starting from this morning and will be open until January 4th. During the morning period, events including the 2024 Seoul Winter Festa, the Media Facade Seoul Light in Gwanghwamun, and the Countdown Light Show has been canceled.
And Sung-jin, what's being done to make sure everything is safe?
Right, Chongmin. So the city has thoroughly prepared for approximately 100,000 people that have gathered here. Around 800 safety management personnel will closely monitor and cooperate with the police. It also deployed emergency medical personnel and will provide 4 different shelters for people to escape the cold. The government has urged those who are planning to attend to use public transport. That's all I have for now. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you for the preview, Sungjin. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Sungjin. But don't go anywhere. We are going to be talking to you again in a bit. It has been a year of ups and downs, not just here in Korea, but around the globe, particularly in the political arena. Looking back on 2024, I had a chance to talk to correspondents for Voice of America, Mainichi newspaper, and Le Monde. To take a look. Chris, let me first start with you. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump must be busy leading up to his inauguration in a few weeks. What's grabbing the headlines these days there ahead of the leadership change?
It was this battle over whether the U.S. would pass a funding bill to keep the government running. And there was some drama with that because of Donald Trump's involvement in scuttling an earlier agreement and also Elon Musk's involvement. He had posted 100 times to his social media site X, urging Republican lawmakers to vote against a deal that they had agreed upon with Democratic lawmakers. But lawmakers decided to pass legislation which provides government funding at current levels through March 14th, and it supplies $100 billion in disaster aid and $10 billion in agricultural assistance to farmers. But many observers think that this is a preview of what it's going to be like with a narrow Republican majority in Congress, in the House for Trump, and what Elon Musk's involvement is going to be in the new administration when he has such an influential platform like X that he leads.
So a lot has been unfolding in the political arena there. All right. And Koichi, the change of leadership in Japan has made the headlines in 2024. What would Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba be focusing on at this moment, some 2 months after taking office?
Yes. Well, shortly after his administration began in last October, we had a general elections. And while the ruling coalition maintained its status as the largest bloc, it fell into a minority position. So frankly, there is little room for Ishiba to tackle any significant new policies, simply maintaining the administration is already a challenging task. His primary focus right now is to pass the budget for the next fiscal year by March. The communication with opposition seems to be relatively going well right now. So while Ishiba lacks the strength of former Prime Minister Abe, he appears to be having relatively sincere dialogue with the opposition party. If the budget is passed, his administration will likely continue at least until next upper house election in July next year. So if the ruling coalition wins, the administration will continue. But if they lose this, then the outcome is uncertain.
And Philip, for the first time in over 6 decades, the French National Assembly has approved a no-confidence motion against the incumbent government, forcing out Prime Minister Michel Barnier. President Emmanuel Macron is now under pressure to step down. How's the situation there?
Basically, I don't think the president is under pressure to step down because of the very specific presidential system in France. I think he is positioning basically himself above the current political debates in the National Assembly. Of course, as you know, since the July general election, there is no majority, clear majority. There are 3 blocks in the National Assembly: the left, the center and moderate right, and the far right. So to name a prime minister and a government, a cabinet, it's very difficult because there is no tradition in the Fifth Republic in France to find a coalition to govern. So, as you said, Michel Barnier had to step down, and now there is a new prime minister, which is François Bayrou, and he's struggling to find people to form his own cabinet. But at the same time, Macron is not really threatened. He is basically waiting for the next summer because at this time he would be able to call for another snap election. And I think that it's he's waiting for.
So right, that was some political events going on, unfolding right now around the world. Now let's turn to the recent political uncertainty unfolding here in Korea. South Korea, after the National Assembly impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol recently over his controversial martial law declaration. The case is now being contested at the Constitutional Court for a final decision. Chris, the U.S. has underscored Washington's alliance with Seoul amid a de facto leadership vacuum here in Korea. How does the U.S. media forecast the relationship between the two allies under a second Trump presidency?
Well, they're expecting a marked change from the Biden administration, which favored a multilateral approach to dealing with North Korea. And analysts say Trump might bypass South Korea entirely, as seen during his first term. And this is according to Daniel Snyder, who is a lecturer in East Asian Studies at Stanford University. And he highlighted the challenges for South Korea if U.S.-North Korea summit diplomacy resumes. And people are expecting that to happen, that Trump will have summits with Kim Jong-un like he had in his first term. But they say that it's unlikely to be an early priority. Gary Seymour is the former White House coordinator for weapons for mass destruction. And he cited the war in Ukraine, various conflicts in the Middle East, and even in Asia, U.S.-China relations taking precedence over the Korean Peninsula for the incoming Trump administration.
Staying with the same topic, Koichi, how does the Japanese media forecast bilateral cooperation down the road?
Well, actually, next year marks the, as everyone knows, 60th anniversary of normalization of Japan-South Korea relations. Actually, originally, Ishiba was scheduled to visit South Korea in January next year, and also preparations were also underway for a Japan-South Korea-China summit sometime around May. So there are so many plans next year, but right now, as you mentioned, it's become every future schedule got uncertain. But actually, actually, recent improvements in Japan-South Korea relations have been largely due to President Yoon's decision, but still Meanwhile, international dynamics are shifting, and including Russia's invasion of Ukraine and strengthening cooperation between North Korea and Russia, as well as ongoing U.S.-China rivalry. I think given both nations' economic challenges, it seems Japan and South Korea have little choice but to cooperate. While there may be a temporary friction if the progressive government, progressive party takes control South Korea, but still broader direction of cooperation between Japan and South Korea and the US is, we believe, that unlikely to change.
Philip, Le Monde has recently highlighted rallies in Korea supporting the impeachment of President Yoon. What's been its focus? What were the takeaways?
We are also focusing on what comes next. I mean, now there is this destitution. The Constitutional Court might approve or disapprove this. If it approves, there will be another presidential election. So what will be the debates now? And I think we think that some question could be discussed because the crisis raised the question of the political culture in Korea, about the constitution. It's the problem of the constitution. So if what will happen during the presidential campaign? Will the candidates discuss deeply about this crisis and discuss about the political culture, about the constitution and everything in order to avoid a similar crisis in the future? I think that will be the main point in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Just to follow up on that, how does the French media assess rallies that have taken place here in Korea?
I think that they've been impressed because the rally have been organized just the day after the martial law, and the weekend after it was huge. There were huge rallies, and there were lots of young people, and there were lots of young ladies, more than young boys. It was really amazing. So we have been surprised, but I think it was a good thing to see and a good surprise, and we followed that and covered that with lots of enthusiasm.
All right, let's have a look into other global issues. Chris, Trump has recently vowed to speak to Ukraine's Zelensky and Russia's Putin to end the war. Where does the U.S. president-elect stand on this issue?
Well, President-elect Trump says he will try to negotiate a deal between Russia and Ukraine at the start of his next term, and said both sides may have to compromise. But he also slammed President Biden's decision just a few weeks ago to allow Ukraine to strike inside Russian territory with U.S.-provided long-range weapons, hinting that when he does take office, he may reverse that move. Now, analyst William Pomerantz of the Wilson Center said a future Trump decision to roll back support for Ukraine would have significant military consequences for Ukraine and could pit Trump against its U.S. allies in NATO. Pomerantz said he sees a potential clash between our NATO allies and President Trump as to what is the future of the war. And quite frankly, he said when Trump talks about negotiations, it really means that Ukraine has to negotiate and surrender, as it were, but he doesn't really put any conditions on Russia. As you know, President Zelensky of Ukraine has said in recent weeks that he may be willing to give up territory, which is something that he hadn't said earlier in the war, earlier in the year, especially when NATO leaders met here in Washington, D.C. He was very defiant that they wouldn't give up territory, but he's had apparently a change of heart in the last few weeks, perhaps because he sees what may happen with an incoming Trump administration in the U.S.
Philip, European leaders are discussing future support for Ukraine ahead of Trump's return to the White House. Where does France stand when it comes to sending Western troops to Ukraine? Is there a possibility that support for Kyiv will falter?
I don't think France is ready to send by itself alone troops in Ukraine. And as just Chris said, everything is related to what Trump will do when he will be in charge in January. So now the discussions are on peace, on negotiation. The thing is that contrary to Germany, for example, which is more prone to accept a peace and a quick peace in Ukraine, France is more ambiguous because they are still worried about what Russia will do after peace has been decided, has been concluded. Of course, the worries are more important in Eastern Europe because they are neighbor of Russia and they're very worried about what Moscow might do. But in Western Europe and especially in France, there are also big worries about that. But the thing is that there are other crises, in Syria, in Israel and Palestine. So, for Europe, it's a difficult situation because Europe is depending on US, but at the same time has to deal with lots of crises in its neighborhood or even in Europe. So I think peace will be welcome, but to what cost? That's the issue.
And Koichi, reports suggest a possible meeting between U.S. President-elect Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba in January. What's the outlook of the Japan-U.S. relationship under Trump 2.0?
It remains unclear whether communication between Ishiba and Trump will go as smoothly as it did between Abe and Trump. Ishiba is not a particularly outgoing person like Abe. So, however, some people in Japan say or hope that Ishiba's Protestant Christian faith might make him more welcomed by Trump or people around him. I am not sure. Personally, I think religious affiliation have little to do with diplomatic relations. That said, while Ishiba might attend Sunday worship with Trump and purchase a Bible endorsed by him, which would be highly unusual for a Japanese prime minister.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Deputy editor at Mainichi newspaper Koichi Yonemura, Le Monde correspondent Philip Mesmer, and VOA correspondent Chris Katskeho, thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Korea was struck by surprising political events like no other in 2024, triggered by the president's martial law declaration earlier this month. As we look back on the past year, our political correspondent Shin Ha-young is here in the studio to recap the matter and give us a preview of what's ahead next year. Welcome, Ha-young.
Great to be here, Jungmin.
Ha-young, before we delve into what happened, can you first give us a quick overview of the political situation leading up to it?
Sure, Jungmin. Well, this year, South Korea's political scene saw intense conflict between the rival parties in the National Assembly. And it all started after the April general election, where the pan-opposition, including the main opposition Democratic Party, secured 192 of 300 seats, while the ruling People Power Party took 108 seats, just enough to block constitutional amendments. And what followed were multiple cycles of the opposition passing contentious bills, the president vetoing them, and the bills ultimately being rejected after a revote. And tensions escalated further over next year's budget when the DP pushed through a downside version in the National Assembly Budget Committee, causing a boycott by the PPP. Then came President Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of martial law. So let's first take a look at what happened over those 12 days from the martial law declaration to the passage of the presidential impeachment motion.
자유 헌정 질서를 지키기 위해 비상계엄을 선포합니다.
It was the first declaration of emergency martial law in South Korea since 1979. At 10:23 p.m. on December 3rd, President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law, citing pro-North Korea forces and opponents of the state paralyzing South Korean democracy. This was followed by the military announcing a set of measures, including the suspension of political gatherings that could stir social confusion. Troops were sent to both the National Assembly and the National Election Commission, leading to a clash between the military trying to enter and people trying to block them. Lawmakers worked swiftly to block the martial law decree in the hours following Yoon's declaration, with 190 of the 300 members of parliament voting to overturn the measure at around 1 a.m.
According to the decision of the National Assembly, the president must immediately lift the emergency martial law. The martial law order is now void.
President Yoon then declared an end to martial law at 4:30 a.m., followed by the cabinet passing a motion to lift it 6 hours after Yoon ordered the decree.
조금 전 국회의 계엄 해제 요구가 있어 계엄 사무에 투입된 군을 철수시켰습니다.
The same day, 6 pan opposition parties jointly submitted a motion to impeach Yoon for declaring martial law that, quote-unquote, does not meet the criteria for one as outlined by the Constitution. The first big day arrived. On December 7th, all 192 opposition lawmakers cast their ballots on Yoon's impeachment motion. However, with all but 3 lawmakers of the ruling People Power Party boycotting the vote, the impeachment motion was scrapped as it failed to meet the quorum of 200 votes. After the vote, the main opposition Democratic Party vowed to push for Yoon's impeachment every week.
We will hold Yoon Suk-yeol accountable for insurrection and military rebellion and ensure his impeachment. We won't give up.
3 days later, the Assembly passed an opposition-led bill to appoint a standing special counsel to investigate President Yoon and his close aides over the December 3rd declaration of martial law and charges of insurrection. 6 pan opposition parties at the National Assembly jointly introduced their second impeachment motion for President Yoon. Meanwhile, ahead of the second impeachment vote against Yoon, PPP leader Han Dong-un called for the president to be suspended from his duties as soon as possible. Another pivotal day where the political futures of President Yoon and South Korea hung in the balance. On December 14th, lawmakers gathered at a plenary session to vote on the second impeachment motion against Yoon. Unlike the first vote, which was dropped due to insufficient participation, all 300 lawmakers took part this time. This came as the PPP decided to participate while adopting a party consensus against impeachment.
I hereby declare that the impeachment motion against President Yoon Suk-yeol has been passed.
The motion passed with 204 votes in favor, 85 against, 3 abstentions, and 8 invalid votes, meeting the required 2/3 majority, marking the third passage of the impeachment motion of a sitting president in South Korea's history.
Now that the impeachment motion has passed, it's up to the Constitutional Court. We hope for a fair decision based on the Constitution and the law.
저는 지금 잠시 멈춰 서지만 지난 2년 반 국민과 함께 걸어온 미래를 향한 여정은 결코 멈춰 서서는 안 될 것입니다. 저는 결코 포기하지 않겠습니다.
Following the passage of the motion, Yoon was suspended from his duties, leaving his fate in the hands of the Constitutional Court.
Then what has been done so far, and what controversies have arisen?
Well, it's been over 2 weeks since the impeachment motion passed, and last Friday, the Constitutional Court held its first preparatory hearing on President Yoon's impeachment, a session to outline a roadmap for the trial with representatives from both the National Assembly and the president present. And the justices outlined 4 rough reasons for impeachment, which included Yoon's declaration of martial law, the proclamation of the martial law order, the lockdown of the National Assembly, and the disruption of parliamentary activities, and the attempted search and seizure at the National Election Commission. And meanwhile, on Tuesday, a Seoul court issued an arrest warrant for President Yoon, making him the first sitting South Korean president to face arrest. And this comes after the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials requested an arrest warrant after 3 failed attempts to summon President Yoon for questioning. And the request cited 2 allegations against Yoon, leading an insurrection and abusing authority to obstruct others from exercising their rights. However, Yoon's legal representative said the court issuing an arrest warrant is in fact illegal and invalid. And meanwhile, following the passage of the impeachment motion, the rival parties have been clashing over the prospects of filing filling the constitutional court vacancies. The opposition pushing to fill the seats, while the ruling party objects, arguing the nominees, even if confirmed by the assembly, cannot be appointed by an acting president. And this led to the impeachment of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, who had been acting president, for delaying the appointment of the justices. And just one judge is needed to reject the impeachment under the current 6-member court. But if 3 new judges are appointed in time to review and rule, it will take 4 judges to dismiss the motion. And on Tuesday, acting President Choi Sang-mok approved the appointment of 2 judges, emphasizing South Korea's financial and social challenges amid President Yoon's impeachment trial and criminal investigations. So this is also a key factor to watch, as it could significantly impact the pace and outcome of the trial.
Right, it has been a long story. Hayoung, can you briefly give us a preview of what's ahead next year when it comes to the impeachment trial?
Sure, Jungmin. So the Constitutional Court is scheduled to hold its second preparatory hearing for the impeachment trial on January 3rd at 2 p.m. And the court must rule within 180 days of receiving the case, meaning the deadline is June 12th next year. And experts expect a ruling before April 18th, when 2 Constitutional Court judges retire. And if the impeachment is upheld, an early presidential election will be held within 60 days, possibly in the first half of the next year. So I'll make sure to keep track of all these major issues in 2025 as well.
Please do keep us posted. Thank you, Hayoung, for the wrap-up.
Thank you.
Another major story from 2024 here in Korea was author Han Kang winning the Nobel Prize in Literature. Once again, I'm joined by our culture correspondent, Songyujin. Eugene, you followed this story from the moment Han was announced as the winner to the award ceremony in Stockholm in December, didn't you?
That's right, Jungmin. So as you briefly mentioned, the year's Nobel Prize winners, they are presented with their awards every December in Stockholm, Sweden, which is the birthplace of Alfred Nobel, who is, of course, the founder of the prestigious Nobel Prize. So this grand award ceremony is often regarded as the highlight of Nobel Week, which refers to the week-long celebrations that honors and recognizes the year's laureates as well as their achievements. So for those who want to know more about Han Kang's historic Nobel Prize win, here's a look back at her journey during Nobel Week 2024.
The first Asian female Nobel laureate in literature, only the second Korean Nobel Prize winner. It's no surprise that Han Kang was the star of Nobel Week 2024. Han began the week by visiting the Nobel Prize Museum, following the long-standing tradition of laureates donating a personal artifact. She chose a teacup that she used throughout the writing of her latest novel, We Do Not Part.
Every time I sat back down at my desk, I would drink black tea from this cup. It became like a spell, drawing me back to my writing. I felt it was the perfect object to share my creative process.
Her first press conference after winning the Nobel Prize also drew a great deal of attention. Han's response to Korea's brief martial law imposition resonated deeply, as it reminded many of her 2014 novel Human Acts, which explores the 1980 Gwangju democratization movement under military control.
Witnessing martial law unfold again in 2024 was shocking. I saw people trying to stop armored vehicles with their bodies, others holding back soldiers with their hands, and some standing firm against advancing troops with guns. As the soldiers withdrew, some called out, "Take care," like they were saying goodbye to their sons. I could feel their sincerity and courage.
The day after was her Nobel lecture, often regarded as the laureate's acceptance speech. The author expressed her gratitude to readers for connecting with her through what she called the golden thread of language.
그 생생한 감각들을 전류처럼 문장들에 불어넣으려 하고 그 전류가 읽는 사람들에게 전달되는 것을 느낄 때면 놀라고 감동합니다. 언어가 우리를 잇는 실이라는 것을.
The following evening, Han's words were once again heard during the Nobel Literature Night. Excerpts from We Do Not Part were recited in Korean.
밀도가 얼마나 낮은 눈인지 내가 앉는 대로 끝없이 깊게 꺼져내렸다. 격벽 같은 눈이 우리를 갈라놓았다.
It was truly a meaningful and touching moment to hear Han Kang's beautiful prose in Korean here in Sweden.
In times like this, as Hangang mentioned in her lecture, I hope it becomes a moment for all of us to reflect on the pain and love between humans.
Yeah, it's the history that we all have in us through our forefathers. You can't really escape it, and you have to talk about it and read about it, and to understand yourself and your family and existence, actually. So in that way, I can relate to it a lot.
And then came Nobel Day. Hangang became the first Korean to walk down the Nobel Prize's blue carpet at Stockholm Concert Hall. Korea's first Nobel Prize winner, former President Kim Dae-jung, received his Peace Prize in Oslo, Norway. During the banquet, Han delivered her speech of thanks with a pleasant surprise beforehand. The host introduced her to the podium in Korean.
올해 노벨 문학상 수상자를 소개하게 되어 영광입니다.
Han's speech focused on the role of literature in times of darkness, offering great comfort to many in Korea during a time of political and social uncertainty.
Language that connects us one another. Literature that deals in this language inevitably holds a kind of body heat. Just as inevitably, the work of reading and writing literature stands in opposition to all acts that destroy life.
The next day, during a meetup with the Korean media, Han showed a lighter side, recalling a special memory from her time in Stockholm.
Univaken is a sort of theme park inspired by Astrid Lindgren's works that she was directly involved in designing and creating. During my first visit to Stockholm, my Swedish editor recommended it during my 3 free hours. This time they gave me a lifetime free pass, which was a fun and touching gift.
For the grand finale of her Nobel Week, Hangang surprised her readers with an unplanned recital of her novel Greek Lessons in front of an audience of around 700 at the Royal Dramatic Theatre's Nobel Reading with Hangang event. With the celebrations now behind her, Han says she's ready to write again.
I'll now return to my daily life and quietly focus on working hard on my next book. I'd appreciate your support.
Though she has achieved numerous firsts, the arc of Hangang's story hasn't reached its climax just yet. We'll now wait for what the Nobel laureate has in store for her readers around the world.
It was certainly a week full of festivities and celebrations, and I think the reason why Hangang received so much spotlight during the Nobel Week is because of the significance of her win. What do you say?
I would definitely agree with you, Jungmin, because first of all, the prize she won is the Nobel Prize, the big prize that boasts more than a century-long history, which also recognizes and honors those who've profoundly benefited humankind in areas including science, literature, and peace. And I also want to mention that, of course, Korea's first Nobel Prize, which was won by then President Kim Dae-jung, the Peace Prize back in 2000. It was, of course, a historic moment. But I want to point out that Hangang's win is monumental in many ways. As many of you may know, Hangang is the first Asian female laureate among the 121 Literature Prize winners to date, and only the 18th woman ever to receive this honor, and also the first Asian laureate in the category since China's Mo Yan in 2012. So this was definitely a historic win.
And Eugene, you've been reporting live file and reports from Sweden and producing a documentary on Hangang's Nobel win. How do you remember Nobel Week?
Well, I remember it as an unbelievably incredible experience from the very start when I heard that she won the Nobel Prize to covering Nobel Week in Sweden. Because as a reporter and a culture correspondent, I think that this is a very rare chance and even a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually get to travel to Sweden and cover a Korean Nobel laureate receiving the honor, especially as Korea has celebrated and welcomed its Nobel Prize winner, second Nobel Prize winner in history in first time in more than 20 years. So I think that it was definitely an immense honor and privilege. And as a cultural correspondent, I sometimes feel that from time to time, the impact and the importance of culture is underestimated. But the fact that Hangang's Nobel Prize win has been chosen as one of the top news stories of 2024 clearly proves otherwise.
Great reporting. Thanks, Eugene. But stay with us for the bell ringing ceremony.
I will.
We are about to ring in 2025 in less than half an hour. Once again, let's go over to Bosingak Pavilion where our correspondent An Sung-jin is standing by. Sung-jin, we're getting closer to the new year. How's the mood there?
Good evening, Chungmin. We are so close to the end of the year with only about 20 minutes left. As you say, I'm here at Bosingak Pavilion. People have been gathering more and more as it is going towards the midnight. This year's traditional New Year's bell ringing ceremony was supposed to be the largest ever, but following the Jeju airplane crash over the weekend, the country is currently in a period of national mourning until January 4th. The ceremony has been scaled down with some scheduled performances and events cancelled. The bell ringing ceremony will begin at midnight with a total of 10 participants, including actor Go Joo-sim and firefighter Park Jun-hak, who saved a driver from falling off a bridge, ringing the bell 33 times. Though the ceremony will be held in a rather solemn atmosphere, the festivity here remains with the crowd gathered to celebrate the end of the year and wish for a good 2025.
Actually, for 2025, I just want to make sure that I'm giving good health. I want to make sure that my students are getting very good information so that they can be prosperous in their careers as well.
I think I'm hoping that next year will be a different one. I want to be happy all year.
Sung-jin, as you've mentioned, this year's mood seems a bit different from the previous celebrations. How has the ceremony taken this into account?
Right, Chungmin. The ceremony has not only been scaled down with the cancelling of performances, but it will also hold a moment of silence to pay condolences to the victims of the plane crash as it is just begun right now. The moment the bell rings, the midnight sun, a giant 30-meter sun structure, is to rise behind Bosingak Pavilion, and a moment of mourning will take place soon. Events like this one hosted by the government will proceed calmly following the guidelines of the Ministry of Interior and Safety. A couple of hundred meters away from here, the Seoul Metropolitan Government has set up a memorial altar in front of the Seoul City Hall. And starting from this morning, it will last until January 4th. During the morning period, events including the 2024 Seoul Winter Festa, the Media Facade Seoul Light in Gwamun, and the Countdown Show Light have all been cancelled.
And what's being done to make sure everything is safe?
Right, the city this time has thoroughly prepared for the approximate 100,000 people that have all gathered here. Around 800 safety management personnel are placed here and will closely monitor and cooperate with the police. It has also deployed emergency medical personnel and has set up 4 shelters for people to escape the cold. The government has urged for those that are coming here to use public transportation. That's all I have for you now. Back to you, Jungmin, as the event starts.
All right, that was our correspondent An Sung-jin reporting live from Bosingak Pavilion.
It's time for K Correspondent, where we usually connect live to a correspondent overseas to fill us in on K-culture news in their respective countries. They have been selected based on their love and interest in Korean culture. Now, since the very first edition of the Culture Wave, we spoke to correspondents in around 10 different nations. For our year-end special, we connect to 3 K correspondents from around the world. They are Ayapat Wankawisan in Thailand, Farnaz Piraste in Australia, and Sari McIntosh in Korea. Welcome. Happy to see you again.
Hello everyone, my name is Ayapat from Thailand. I'm a passionate K-influencer, a content creator from Diary of Tang Si Hu channel, and I also the owner of digital marketing agency in Thailand too.
Hey, it's great to be among these guests and your show. I'm Farnaz. I'm a full-time PhD student at the University of Melbourne in Australia, and I lived in South Korea for 10 years, where I worked at Busan English Radio and also worked with Korean tourism organizations. It's been a year and a half since I moved to Australia.
Hi everyone, I'm Sari. I'm a 19-year-old singer-songwriter, and I'm currently living in Seoul. I'm mainly known for my English remakes of classic Korean songs.
All right, Farnaz, we talked about K-food and in particular K-chicken with you before. Has any other Korean food gained stardom in Australia since then?
That's right. Well, Korea's fast-paced pali culture doesn't just influence life in Korea. It's making waves in K-culture and K-food around the world, including Australia. Well, from establishment of Koreatown in Melbourne to the expansion of Korean street food across Australia, K-food is making a big splash. Street favorites like tteokbokki, the spicy rice cakes, and hot dog, the sweet pancake, are becoming huge popular in Australia's major cities, and the growing number of Korean street vendors show just how much Aussies are embracing these bold and exciting flavors. And actually, here's the big headline. McDonald's Australia introduced the Squid Game Meal and Challenge on December 11th. 2024, featuring a limited-time Korean BBQ sauce and the iconic dalgona candy, inspired by the popular TV Squid Game, of course. It's a perfect example of how Korean culture and Korean flavors are becoming a mainstream favorite here in Australia.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. And also, we would like to know what's currently the hottest K in Thailand right now. Is it K-pop or K-dramas or anything specific like a star or a food item?
Okay, actually, there's so many K in Thailand that popular because right now K-pop is like undeniably the hottest K in Thailand with many concerts happening almost every week. So Thai fans are showing incredible enthusiasm and dedication to their favorite K-pop idols. In fact, I have 2 more K-pop concerts lined up next week. I couldn't be more excited. And yeah, also K-drama are also hugely popular with titles with like romantic comedies and action thrillers consistently trending on social media. But another major trend is Korean food, like restaurants offering tteokbokki, samgyeopsal, or dessert like bingsu are packed with many customers during special occasions like New Year. And also the Korean beauty products and skincare routines are also highly influential among Thai consumers. They have been used as a New Year gift for family and friends too. So I think all of these are showing how deeply Korean culture has integrated into our daily life here.
Great to hear that. And Sari, in Korea, do you have any updates on your music career since we met? What's the latest song you uploaded? And also, which K-pop song or old K-pop song are you into these days?
Ooh, recently I've been filming some really exciting projects and they should be released in the new year. So I'm really looking forward to that. I just released a new English remake yesterday on my YouTube channel of 그때와 단둘이서 by Kim Yeon-sik and Jang Gi-ho 선생님. So I'm really proud of that one. I really love that song. And recently, I've been obsessed with the song Fairy of Shampoo by Light and Salt. That's the English title. I think it's such an amazing song, so I've been listening to that nonstop.
And now we would love to hear from all 3 of our special K correspondents on your plans for the new year in terms of spreading the K culture around you. So any specific plans you want to share? Let's ask Farnas first.
Sure. Well, as a content creator, I always write about K-culture and my memories that I had in Korea, and actually what a great country it is to travel, specifically even to travel. Many people ask me advice about plans for their trip to Korea, and this actually led me to think about organizing some tours to Korea, working with a travel agency in Melbourne. This would make me actually personally very happy if I can do it because I believe Korea is one of the most beautiful countries to travel. I will continue creating more content in my social media platforms about Korea, including my experiences in the city and, well, what else? I guess appearing more in your show.
In 2025, I plan to expand my content by exploring lesser-known aspects of Korean culture, such as traditional craft and like regional cuisines to bring a fresh perspective to my audience. And I also aim to collaborate with Thai or maybe Korean creators to create unique content that bridge our cultures.
In 2025, I'm gonna live another year in Korea. So while I'm here, I want to do a lot of collaborations with other K-influencers, and I also want to make a lot of official releases of my English remix of classic Korean music so more people can hear these amazing songs.
Thank you very much, Ayapat, Farnaz, and Sari. I wish you all the best and Happy New Year. 새해 복 많이 받으세요.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You make my world go round, don't wanna be apart. I got a taste of love, come on and celebrate. Yeah, I just wanna say.
On our first broadcasting, it really got a lot of attention, and even my family were really shocked and surprised as well. So the news really spread widely.
The second time that you guys invited us, it was like a very happy moment because we were like, oh, they want us, they love us, they want us to come again.
K-pop is such a big thing here in the Philippines. Even like K-dramas. Even my mom watches K-dramas. Like everyone I know watches K-dramas. So I'd say like Korean culture is very like mixed in with our culture also.
This was a very significant moment in my life because I grew up watching Arirang TV as well. This one is I Will Go To You Like the First Snow.
Oh
so
my
here
gosh.
we go.
Okay.
I don't hide my liking, means that I always tell my fans who loves to hear my covers, I always tell them how much I love Korean song and how much Korean music really inspired me in general. When I look at it, you guys are so powerful. Like I see it as a powerful thing because it makes us happy whenever we hear about anything related to Korean, and we're so happy that you guys exist. Yeah.
After that, I saw every comment. This is my obsession thing. Oh, who is she? Already like, oh, this Billy. She is the Thai artist. Blah blah blah. She's a good rapper. It's like, oh, 감사합니다. Yes, like that. Thank you so much. And I really love their genre of music. So I started looking more and more, and I found like a dance practice video, and the three person that's really attract to me is Jungkook, Jimin, and Jaeho. But at that time, I don't have that much money, so I have to choose one to be my bias to like support just only him like that. I literally post in my Twitter that one day I will make BTS know me, that I'm like exit in this world. And at that time that like the fans, I heard Jungkook listen to Mirror Mirror in his Instagram story. I literally cry and live and talking to my fans because everybody in Thai know that I'm like the biggest K-pop fans, and I love Jungkook so much, and my voice literally get into his ear. So I say to my fan that, dude, I can't die right now. I have to be alive and doing this, like continue doing this, because he already know, even just my voice, but he already heard my voice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just spit it up now.
然后就是在那个时候站上那个舞台的时候，觉得很不可思议，就感觉自己在做梦一样。
오늘
고등학교에 깜짝 공연하러 왔어요.
저희가 생각했던 것보다 학생들, 친구들의 이제 K-팝을 좋아하는 그 관심도가 더 뜨겁고 높다고 느껴서 너무 신기하고 좋았던 것 같아요.
在昨天就是去到学校的时候，也感觉跟我以前一样，看到哇，大家也都这么喜欢 K-pop， 我真的吓一跳，然后也想到我以前也是这样子过来的。
한국을 너무 좋아해요. 음식을 좋아하고 케이크, 샌드위치, 카페, 옷 더 좋아하고 쇼핑. 그리고 저 친구들 다 한국을 가고 싶어 해요. 在台湾的时候也是有很流行那种韩流啊，或是韩国的东西都是很流行的。
It is always such a blessing. We're so grateful to have you guys, and we hope to go back to Korea.
Again, thank you Simply K-pop Arirang for having me.
컴백을 한다면 제일 첫 무대가 아리랑 TV 심플리 K-팝이 됐으면 좋겠습니다.
So if you would like to invite me again for Simply K-pop, so do it.
Of course, we can't leave out K-culture and K-pop when talking about Korea. We're inching closer to midnight, waiting for the bell ringing ceremony at Bosingak Pavilion, located in the center of the capital, which will be tonight's highlights. There you see the Bosingak Pavilion, located in the center of the capital. As usual, the bell ringers will toll the bell 33 times to mark the coming of the new year. Eugene, it seems like I'm repeating this around this time of the year, but I have to say it again. Time just flies. It's a blink of an eye. What's the past year been like for you? What was memorable in 2024?
Well, as I'm here as Arirang뉴스 culture correspondent, I can say that 2024 was definitely a meaningful year for me because there were a lot of big issues on the cultural front. We had the 2024 Gangwon Youth Winter Olympic Games, the Paris Olympics, BTS members starting to complete their mandatory military service, and which we mentioned earlier, author Kang winning the Nobel Prize in Literature. But just like any other year, 2024 wasn't just good news. As Ha-young mentioned earlier, political turmoil erupted following the failed martial law attempt earlier this month. The wars in Ukraine and the Middle East continued, and just last weekend, once again, a tragic plane crash claimed the lives of more than 100 people. And Jongmin, I think you'll know this much better than me. It's our duty as reporters to report both joyful and heartbreaking stories, but I just hope that in the new year, we'll get to report more news stories that are filled with hope and positivity.
Let's hope for that. Indeed, a lot happened. Hopefully the year to come will be more peaceful. And what you see on the screen right now is the streets near the place are just packed with so many people, braving the chill, waiting for tonight's highlight, the bell tolling ceremony. And we just saw the bell ringers are getting ready to strike the bell. It's a really symbolic place for the annual bell ringing ceremony at the stroke of the midnight. Eugene, we just heard some of the details about tonight's bell ring ceremony at Bosingak Pavilion from our reporter An Song-jin. What's the story behind the bell ringing ceremony in Korea? Why is the bell tolled 33 times?
Right, so this ceremony, it dates back to the Joseon dynasty because then it was rung 33 times in the early morning, which really told people that the curfew was over and the city gates were open, symbolizing the start of the new day. And I think a lot of people will be curious about why it's rung 33 times. So it goes back to Buddhism. It comes from Buddhism as it represents the 33 heavens associated with Kwan-yin, who vowed to save all living beings.
Right. So that's the story behind why the bell is tolled 33 times.
Right.
And who are the bell ringers this year?
Right, so there were originally 15 bell ringers planned, but we'll have 10 as the city government scaled down the festivities due to the tragic plane crash. Some notable figures include a woman who has shared rice with neighbors in need for nearly 40 years, a visually impaired YouTuber raising awareness about the challenges faced by the disabled, and also other notable figures that our reporter An Sung-jin mentioned earlier in our live cross. So a lot to look forward to in the bell ringing ceremony.
Right, they include heroes in our neighborhoods. The bell ringers have been chosen for the overcoming hardships or doing good deeds, committing to volunteering work, or raising a sense of national pride. We are just a few minutes away from ringing in 2025.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So there you have it. The bell is rung to welcome in 2025. Eugene, Happy New Year to you. What a moment. What do you wish for in 2025? What's your New Year's resolution?
Well, should I answer this as individual 송유진 or Arirang culture
Both,
correspondent?
please, yes.
Well, in the new year, I wish I could read more books as I was greatly inspired by Kang's Nobel Prize winning literature. I also hope to regularly work out as it's really important for a reporter to have a good health.
I also need to work out. Yes.
And also in the new year, I think that I mentioned this before the bell ringing ceremony, but I wish that in the new year, I hope all our reporters here at Arirang Newsroom could report more stories that are heartwarming and filled with positivity and good vibes in 2025.
Right. And I wish a happy and healthy new year. And I believe many are wishing for a peaceful and a safer world in the year to come. Right. Now, to give you a bit of background about this event for those who missed it, the bell is struck 33 times to welcome in the new year. So the bell ringing continues to bid farewell to the old year and express hope, happiness, and expectations for the new year. So with the iconic bell ringing event, the year 2025 is now here. Let's connect once again to our correspondent An Sung-jin at Bosingak Pavilion. Happy New Year, Sung-jin. How's the mood there?
Happy New Year, guys, and Happy New Year to everyone who has tuned in watching us. As the clock has struck midnight, the bell ringing ceremony has begun. And as you can still hear behind me, the bell ringing is still going on as I speak right now. The giant 30-meter sun structure has also risen behind me. The moment of silence for the victims of the Jeju airplane crash was held in a solemn atmosphere, yet you can also sense the hope of excitement and enthusiasm of those who have gathered here to celebrate the beginning of a new year. People have been hugging each other, some have been cheering, but generally it has been done in a very solemn atmosphere and starting off the new year in their own way.
Well, first of all, Sung-jin, Happy New Year to you. And I want to ask you, with all these people gathered at the Bosingak Pavilion, what has the city of Seoul done to make sure everything is safe and sound?
Right, Eugene, so it is estimated that around 100,000 people have gathered here and the city has thoroughly prepared. Around 800 safety management personnel will closely monitor and cooperate with the police. It also deployed emergency medical personnel and has set up 4 shelters for people to escape the cold. The government has also urged for those who are coming now or leaving soon to take public transportation.
And for those that are looking for ways to spend their first day of 2025, what should they be aware of?
Right, Changmin. So normally a common way to celebrate New Year's here in South Korea is to see the sunrise, the first sunrise on January 1st. However, the city of Seoul announced that these sunrise events that were scheduled to be held at famous sunrise spots, including at Inwangsan, Anchasan, or Bukhansan Forest, have been canceled to commemorate the victims of the plane crash. A couple of 100 meters away from here, the Seoul Metropolitan Government has held a memorial altar in front of the City Hall, and starting from this morning, it will be held until January 4th. Nationwide, these altars have been set up in more than 10 different cities and provinces, including the cities of Busan, Incheon, and Gwangju. That's all I have for you now, but back to you guys, and Happy New Year once again.
Have a great start to 2025, Sungjin. Thank you.
Happy New Year to you too. Thank you, Sungjin. And I also want to thank our co-host and our culture correspondent, Song Yoo-jin, for your great analysis and reporting.
Thank you, Jungmin, and hope you have a great start to 2025 too.
You too. Now, as we officially welcome 2025, the year of the blue snake, our Lee Eun-hee tells us what this means and more.
As we step into 2025, South Korea is embracing the energy of a new lunar year, one that carries the mystique of the blue snake. But as the calendar turns, it's not just the animals of the zodiac that are shifting, it's also the hopes and dreams of the people. From bold aspirations to heartfelt wishes, let's take a look at what people here in South Korea are wishing for in this year of transformation.
I haven't been here for 10 years, so I'm just getting back, so it makes me want to come to Korea more.
My New Year's wish is to eat a lot of tteokbokki. Wow.
Okay.
This year felt really boring, but by the end, I met a beautiful girlfriend. I hope we stay happy together for a long time.
I have 2 sons, and my New Year's wish is for them to live a healthy and happy life.
은호야, 지호야, 더 건강해라.
The year 2025 is represented by the snake. Each year is represented by one of the 12 animals of the zodiac, meaning those born in the year of the snake, 12 years apart, share the same zodiac sign. For many, wishes and aspirations for the coming year are similar.
Next year, I'll be 73 and born in the year of the snake. I don't have any special wishes. Just staying healthy is all I hope for.
Over a 60-year cycle, each zodiac animal appears 5 times, each time with a different color. With 2025 marking the year of the blue snake, the National Folk Museum of Korea is holding a special exhibition that explores the symbolism and ancient customs surrounding the snake, an animal seen as both a symbol of wisdom and a sacred yet fearsome force. Ancient artifacts and tools adorned with snake shapes or patterns provide a glimpse into the symbolic meaning of snakes in past cultures. Often seen as a frightening creature, snakes were believed to be driven away by scented pendants filled with musk or by fire holders. In other times, snakes were used in traditional medicine and as a health tonic as promoted in old advertisements. Also, snakes were often seen as symbols of evil or punishment, like Medusa in Greek mythology, where the snakes in her hair represented a number of things, including evil, punishment, and power. This year, the museum expanded its focus to the cultural heritage of other countries, showcasing artifacts like a snake guardian deity curving from the Baga people of Guinea, along with other ritualistic items. The exhibition highlights how snakes were symbolized and used in various ancient cultures. While 2025 is the year of the snake, the fortune for every zodiac sign is bright. May the coming year bring smooth paths and fulfillment to everyone. Wishing you a wonderful and prosperous year ahead. Lee Eun-hee, Arirang.News.
In 2025, a set of new measures are set to take effect. Our Lee Soo-jin tells us what policies to look forward to.
It's the new year, which means new policies. And the ones going to effect in 2025 aim to further improve people's daily lives. To tackle the nation's demographic challenges, the government is implementing several new childcare policies. Starting January 1st, the maximum monthly pay for childcare leave will go up from 1.5 million won, or around $1,020 to 2.5 million won. This means that for the first 3 months of leave, parents will receive 100% of their salary, capped at a maximum of around 2.5 million won, 2 million won from the 4th to the 6th month, and then 1.6 million after the 6th month, which amounts to 23.1 million, or nearly $16,000 per year at the current exchange rate. The government is also expanding childcare leave to go into effect starting February 23rd from the current 1 year to a maximum of a year and a half.
We asked people what they needed the most, and the most common answers that we received were increased childcare leave pay and extended leave periods, which is why we have expanded these policies.
And to decrease the burden felt by companies that need to hire replacement workers, the government is also increasing the subsidy cap to 1.2 million won from the current 800,000 won per month. South Korea is also entering the era of the 10,000 won minimum hourly wage starting January 1st, with it being set at 10,030 Korean won, or $6,081. This is an increase of 1.7% from 2024's minimum hourly wage of $9,861. For someone who works 40 hours a week, this brings the monthly minimum pay to around 2.09 million won.
So to that regard, the minimum wage is the minimum level to support the consumers' purchasing power. That is clearly beneficial to the industry and the manufacturing firms and the economy. As long as minimum wage is increased, it is much better for the economy.
And on the industrial front, businesses are on the receiving end of support measures in the new year. During the first half of the year, the government will cover 70% of the rental costs for serving robots and kiosks, for all those models provided to be ones designed to accommodate the elderly and the disabled. 이수진, 아리랑뉴스.
저는 제 꿈을 찾고 싶습니다. 2025년 지금까지 꿈이 없이 살아오다 보니까 뭘 해야 할지 잘 모르겠을 것 같더라고요. 그래서 2025년에는 꿈을 찾는 게 제 소망입니다.
저는 이번 연도는 좀 많이 놀았던 것 같아서 내년에는 좀 열심히 공부를 해보지 않을까.
I wish that my friends and family are healthy and that I can finally get a job for 2025. Yeah.
저희 딸이 둘이 있는데 딸 둘이 행복했으면 좋겠고 건강했으면 좋겠고요. 그리고 저희가 저는 회사원인데 회사가 좀 안정되게 잘 됐으면 좋겠고 그리고 나라가 빨리 시국이 안정이 됐으면 좋겠습니다.
시국이 시국인지라 연말이 좀 그렇게 즐겁게 보내기 좀 어려운 시국이긴 한데 내년에는 좀 더 밝고 좀 더 사회가 전반적으로 좀 안정된 사회였으면 좀 더 좋지 않을까라는 생각을 합니다.
정치적으로나 경제적으로는 좀 많이 안정이 되고 또 사실 자영업자 하는 사람들이 은행에서 대출을 받아가지고 사업을 하는 사람들이 많거든요. 사실 저희가 제일 바라는 건 좀 대출 금리가 많이 좀 낮춰져서 자영업하는 사람들이 좀 이렇게 편안하고 좀 안정된 사업을 운영하는 게 사실 저희 목표입니다.
새 소망이야 부모 입장에서는 자식들 자녀들 건강하고 그게 소망이고 무엇인지 잘 풀리게 내가 나에 대해서 안 풀리는 부분도 풀리고 그런 부분이 좋죠.
I think to stay happy and healthy with our family and continue traveling and seeing different parts of the world.
I would like my family and my friends to be super happy, healthy, and also to have very special moments throughout the year.
I'm just looking forward to bringing the world closer together. I think there's just a lot of different perspectives and so forth, and I think as a human kind, we should be coming together closer, and that's my biggest hope for 2025.
노인은 큰 소망이 없고 내년에도 지금처럼 친구들이랑 별마당에 올 수 있으면 좋겠어요.
가족들과 더 놀러도 많이 가고 더 행복하고 더 좋은 삶을 살고 싶어요.
Like any other year, 2024 was a truly eventful one. Now it has become part of history. In the year to come, we hope for a more peaceful and safer world. On behalf of our entire team, we wish a happy and healthy new year to our viewers. Arirang will be always with you with the latest news, updates, and analyses. Thank you for joining us. Good night.